drums, drummer, drumming, good drummer, bad drummer. What's this one? Stop thinking like a drummer and how it will make you a better drummer? I love playing drums though. All right. I don't mean stop thinking like a drummer. I mean, keep practicing. We all like to play the drums. It's like, drumming is fun. I love the drums. I wouldn't say like, stop practicing drums altogether. Stop thinking like a drummer. You gotta practice, grooves. You gotta practice rudiments. You gotta practice reading. You gotta practice your coordination, your independence, your interdependence, whatever you want to call it. All that stuff is great to practice. What I'm saying is, when you're recording for somebody, when you're on a gig, stop thinking like a drummer all the time. Okay? Start thinking like a producer. Don't think like a drummer. Don't think about, like, oh, I'm going to insert this sick fill I just learned on Instagram. Or whatever, right? What does this song need at this moment? What more do you want? Let's get into it. But first, don't forget to smash that like button and hit subscribe. So like I was saying, in this first episode of Stop Thinking Like a Drummer and How It Will Improve Your Drumming, I want to focus more on thinking like a producer. Because there are a lot of ways that this will improve your drumming. This is definitely going to improve your understanding of subdivisions and your sense of micro timing. Like on a micro level, the spaces between all the notes. The first way I want to talk about is something I get asked to do a lot in the studio. A lot of times, engineers just want more control over the high-end frequencies, the mid-frequencies, and the low frequencies, or things that sustain a lot, like cymbals, and things that don't sustain as much, like drums. Cymbals are always too loud, no matter what. Unless you're talking about like Tony Williams' ride cymbal, then it's never too loud, because it's the best. There's nothing better than that. So I'm just going to start by playing a simple beat, but I'm only going to play the kick and snare, and I'm going to overdub the ride cymbal. And I'm still going to play fills right directly in the song like I normally would. I'm literally just not going to play the ride cymbal or the hi-hat, right? Or any crashes. And this actually just happened on a song I was working on the other day. And so that's why, first of all, I thought this would be great for this video. In this particular beat, I'm using a transient designer that's going to make the snare drum and the drums really explode and sound huge, because I have a tiny room, right? You guys know that. We've talked about this. These are going through a transient designer. And there's the transient designer. Attack all the way down. Sustain almost all the way up. By using that transient designer, it's going to make the drums sound so giant, but the thing is, it kind of makes cymbals sound terrible. So I want to record all the cymbals separately. And it's like, I'm not the first guy that's thought of doing this. One great example is Dave Grohl on that Queens of the Stone Age song. No one knows. I think they put pads on the cymbals while he recorded the drums, so he was still kind of hitting the cymbals, but only really playing the drums. And then he overdubbed the cymbal parts later. Anyway, amazing piece of drumming. The second way we're going to think more like a producer and less like a drummer is we're going to take a page out of the 80s playbook. We're going to record to a drum machine, right? This is really going to work on our micro timing. On this beat, we're going to go super straight 16th notes with that drum machine. And the thing is, we're going to record kick and snare first, and then we're going to overdub cymbals, hi-hats, crashes, or whatever. And then, this is the difference from the first way I was talking about, is we're going to overdub all the tom fills separate, right? So everything's separate. Like if you're a producer and you're looking at the computer screen, you can just go, boop, okay, there's all my tom fills right there in this section, great. Mute that for now. Oh, there's all my cymbals, mute all the crashes, okay. Let's keep the hi-hat in separately, great. And then, oh, here's my kick snare pass, beautiful, love it. That kind of thing. Now, here's the key to all this and how it's going to make you a better drummer. Practice this stuff, do it all the time, and don't use Beat Detective. Don't quantize yourself. Just practice playing in time. Practice getting better, right? This is the great thing about recording is you can record something, especially to like a drum machine like what we're talking about, and then you can go listen to it later and go, okay, was I rushing? Was I behind the beat too much? Is my time kind of going like this, kind of swimming around the click a little bit? You're going to get better as a drummer by not thinking like a drummer, but just thinking like a musician who is playing with good time. So, let's take a trip back to 1985. Bow, bow. Gotta go back in time. Marty, this is heavy, Doc. Great Scott. That was fun, wasn't it? Man, love all those 80s grooves, 80s sounds, all of it. We'll probably do a separate episode just on that sound sometime in the future. Back to the Future. Okay. Again, in this first episode, we're simply thinking about overdubbing, like starting with one layer of something and then overdubbing another drum part on top of that. That's how a lot of modern producers think. You know, they look at a screen and they see like, okay, there's all my shaker tracks up there, and then they audition a bunch of shakers, and then they find a good shaker they like and they make a loop out of it. And then it's like, okay, there's the snare drum sound, okay, let's scroll through. Nope, okay. Okay, that's the snare drum sound we want, and so on, right? That's how producers think nowadays. So if you can think more like that, you're gonna be a better drummer, right? Thinking more like a producer and less about like all these cool drum licks you can do. So this third approach in stop thinking like a drummer and how it will improve your drumming. This third way is what I call a more orchestral approach. So in other words, we're gonna approach the drum set and other sundries, shakers and whatnot, more like an orchestral percussionist would, right? So we're gonna start with a motor rhythm. Instead of using a drum machine like we did for the 80s stuff, we're going to just start with our own motor, probably in the form of a shaker. So, let's get to it. Okay. That was super fun, wasn't it? Yep, I love getting all orchestral like that. But of course, you know, for like the super indie projects, you can do the same sort of thing on like a smaller scale, right? Indie style. Like, let's just find a bunch of little pieces of stuff and like start hitting them on things. Hey! Hey! I don't know. That's all I got. So, in conclusion, I feel like I'm writing a term paper here. In conclusion, no, not in conclusion, but seriously, these 3 ways of thinking less like a drummer, more like a producer, it's going to make you a better drummer. And we're only talking about overdubbing on yourself and really focusing on that micro timing, those spaces between the notes, getting everything locked up. I mean, if a producer wants to beat detective everything later, that's cool. But the main thing is, when you're practicing this stuff, try to get it as tight as you can. I'm not saying play like a robot or something, but I'm just saying be able to groove with yourself, right? Overdubbing on top of yourself. That's what overdubbing is, right? Being able to layer your parts and make them all groove and fit together without having to move stuff around. Workflow. Keeping things moving. So, until next time, let me know what's up. Leave a comment. Let me know if this is helping. This is fun. I'm going to keep making videos. Thanks for all the positive feedback so far. I really appreciate it. Later.